And Melissa, thanks very much to Fresh from Florida for being the sponsor of this. We've had a good time. This is our 5th presentation of Yard to Table at the Landscape Show 2016. And today we're honored to have Chef Jennifer Denlinger. And we're glad to have her expertise. I think you're going to enjoy learning from her. She's a great teacher and a great chef. And today she's going to really be focusing on using a lot of what I consider the gateway drug to gardening, which is herbs. Okay, herbs are really very easy to do and very useful. So we're going to give you some great tips today on how we can encourage our gardening public to get used to using herbs in their food. So Jennifer, take it away and tell us what we're going to have today.
Hi, good morning everybody. Are we having a great Saturday so far? My name is Chef Jennifer Denlinger, and I have been in culinary education for about 14 years at various locations. My research is on the history of food in Florida currently, and I do have a website that I use. It's called floridachef.net, and you're more than welcome to check it out. The recipes from today are on there, plus many, many more. And I'm going to show you how to use herbs in various different ways today, and particularly a way to preserve your herbs for later on. In Florida, we have a very, very, very long growing season. Sometimes it's all year round. Not all of our herbs are perennial. Some of them are just annuals. So when you have that great crop of a certain herb that you just fabulously love, there are many different ways that we can process them into other things. So even if the herb is not fresh at that time, you can still have that available to eat later on in the year. Okay? So I'm going to show you 4 different things today. I'm going to show you how to make an herb butter. And the recipe that I have provided for you is actually, it's on corn, Florida sweet corn, which is just now coming into season, the Zellwood variety. And this just tastes fabulous with that because of the combination of the sweets from the corn and the rich from the butter and the different earthiness from the herbs. But we're going to use it with pasta for today. I'm going to show you how to make garlic herb salt. And I do have some, if you'd like to take some with you, as well as with the recipe for that one. And I have, my recipe varies occasionally with what I have available, but it's super easy to make. And it's good to give away for gifts at holiday time because it can sit underneath the tree, if that's what you do, or put it in the stocking or ship it away. I'm going to show you how to make basil oil. And it's a little magic of television demo right there. It takes a little bit of time, but you can keep that in your fridge and use that for various purposes. And then finally, I'm going to show you how to make mint syrup, which we are going to turn into a little mocktail, easily adjusted with an adult beverage later on in the day, if you so wish. And I have lots of different herbs to show you. Maybe you're familiar with some of them, maybe some of them you are not. With any of these recipes, for the most part, you could probably switch in and out your favorite herb. So if there's something that you just don't like, don't put it in there. Or if you want something else that's easy to experiment with, and try it. You know, it doesn't hurt. I always tell people you have to try something once. I've always told my students, they would, turn their nose up on it. I'm like, you need to put it in your mouth. If you spit it out, that is okay. But then now you understand what it tastes like, what it feels like, and even if you don't like it, you still will have to understand how to present it and prepare it for others. So even if you don't like the taste, you know what it tastes like, and you can further prepare it properly. So I think first I'm going to do the garlic herb salt so I can move the Robot-Coupe. This is a Robot-Coupe. It's a professional strength food processor. Okay, and it probably weighs like a lot. It really does. But it's very. Take the gloves off. It is. It's very powerful. You can do this with a regular food processor at home. So for the garlic herb salt, you use it as a seasoning in place of salt. Now it's green. You see? It's green because of the herbs, and like I said, you can use whatever herbs you have available at the time. And it is shelf stable, so you can put it into the pantry, though it won't retain its greenness. It kind of turns, after you mow your grass, the clippings kind of turn a little bit more brown, which is perfectly, it tastes the same, it's just not as brilliantly green. So I make a lot of this is easily shipped. Like I put it into baggies and ship it away for Christmas gifts. They're good little gifts. Very easily done. Yes, sir. There you go. So obviously, garlic, herb, salt, you need some garlic, easily prepared. Now something about garlic, if you crush it with a knife, then the peel comes off pretty easily, just like this. And depending on how much you make, I usually go for a whole head of garlic, if it's available. Now for this, the fresh garlic will work the best. The garlic that you buy already pre-chopped is in a liquid, and the liquid is going to counter work against the salt. So you have to peel your garlic fresh. So we'll get some garlic in there. And the batch that I made for you guys has rosemary, sage, parsley, thyme, oregano, and garlic. And every time I make this, I sing the song. I really honestly do. The batch that we're making today is going to be maybe a little bit different. So you'll put some garlic into your food processor. The good thing about this is you can make it all in one shot. It's not several steps. So we got a couple cloves of garlic in there. So I have some rosemary here, and rosemary is perennial. I cut my rosemary bush at home with a big set of clippers. I mean, it just grows and grows and grows and grows. And this is a good way. I have made just plain rosemary salt before, just the rosemary and the salt without the other herbs, and that works well. The salt that we're making today tastes fabulous on rich meats. Your lamb, your beef, you can use it on vegetables, you can pretty much use it on anything, but it has a really rich flavor, so you can stand up to it very well. Stems and all, go right into the machine. Okay? So a neat little thing about rosemary, if you're ever into food lore, rosemary is supposed to help your memory. If you remember in Hamlet, they go, "Here's rosemary for remembrance." That is how that association came together. So we're starting with some rosemary. I have got some sage. Some people don't like sage, and sage, if it's hard to come by, you could probably substitute out dried sage for this one right here. This is in the same family as mint, and it grows very, very easily. There's about 30 different varieties of sage. This is a common garden sage right here. And this is what goes in stuffing. This is the classic flavoring for stuffing. So if you don't like it, just omit it out. So the sage can go in. So far, got this, right? It's pretty easy. I have got some thyme. So this is the garden thyme right here. And I'm actually going to use this here. It's cut a little bit smaller, so I'm going to use this one right here. But for the thyme, this is a classic herb for poultry, if you've ever used this before. This is the one thing that I can't grow. Like, I've tried numerous times to grow sage, and I just I kill it every time. I don't understand why. I've tried, and I just seem to not want to grow this. This is one of the classic French herbs that's used in pretty much everything. It really is. It is one of the base flavors that's found in all your stocks, all your sauces, all your soups. It goes in a flavoring concoction we call a bouquet garni. It also goes into a sachet de piece. It's just like one of the basic French herbs. So in the machine we go. And let's see. You could put parsley in here. Parsley won't impart much flavor, but it imparts the green color. And you could use either the curly parsley or the flat parsley, either one. They taste about the same. It just imparts the green color. I have a little bit of oregano. Oregano is very, very strong, so you don't want to use very much of this. You could use marjoram as well. A little tiny bit of that in here. Let it go for a minute. Okay, and so it's just started to chop up just a little bit. We are going to add salt, and a lot of salt. Okay, it's not like, oh, let's season. You are making the seasoning. And the best thing to use is kosher salt because it is really coarse. I'm not a fan of iodized salt because of the iodine that's added. I feel that it imparts a taste to it, but you could use kosher salt or you could use sea salt. Any salt that is super coarse, because you're going to put it in here and chop it up further, and you'll end up pulverizing it and making it smaller. You'll notice in the back. We start with a coarse ground salt because when it gets pulverized, it's actually going to make it smaller and finer. So you could use sea salt if that's what you wanted. Into the machine we go. And it goes around and around and around for quite a while. So it's a little bit, where's my camera? Right here. So you can kind of see, you can see the pieces of herb in it, and it depends on how coarse you like it. So we're gonna let this spin for just one more second. When it comes out, you can perfectly eat it the way it is. It's gonna have a little bit of texture to it from the herbs. If you are opposed to that texture, what you would do is send it through just a regular sifter, like this. And you'll get, it takes, I mean, it's not like sifting sand at the beach. You have to like get in there and physically work it. Then you'll end up with a very fine salt like what you have here, and you end up with this crunchy topping. And I call it crunchy topping. I'm gonna trademark that name, crunchy herb topping. I use this when I make roasts because it's salty and garlicky, but it's really coarse with chunks of herbs. For something that, when it's okay to have texture with, okay? Or you can just discard it, but successful chefs know not to throw away anything. If it's still wholesome, you use it, and you find a way to use it. But I sifted it out for yours, okay? But that's what we would do with this right here. So at this point, it's very green, it's very fragrant. I'm not sure if you can smell it here from where you are sitting or not. And I put in the herbs that I liked. So you can very easily take in or put out other herbs as you see fit. If you want it more green, add some parsley to it. Okay, and that will just help preserve the green. You can keep it in your pantry, or you can keep it in the fridge, and the fridge will help preserve the green. And this can go with vegetables, with pasta, with the meats. It tastes really great with the meats, with really much anything. This is our secret seasoning, one of the secret seasonings that we use. Okay, and I do have some. If you want to take some with you when it's time to go today.
Let's give Jennifer a hand for teaching us that trick. Thank you.
So next I'm going to show you how to make some herb butter. And this is also very easily done. When I make flavored butters in general, I keep them in my freezer because they have that extended shelf life in your freezer. I like this particular recipe with that Florida sweet corn, as we talked about. I have made some pasta with roasted tomatoes for you to taste it on today. So the herbs that I like to use for this, I have tarragon. So some people don't like tarragon because of the licorice flavor. For me, it was acquired taste. First time I tried tarragon, I was like, no. But now I love it. This is the classic flavoring for béarnaise sauce, if you've ever had that with the steak before. It's very licorice. They call it the dragon herb, and I believe they call it that because of the shape. It looks like little leaves of grass on a stem. It puts out these brilliant yellow flowers, which are also edible. All of these herbs do flower at some point in their life, and those flowers are also edible. So if you wanted to add a little bit of extra color, it's great. I think tarragon is what actually makes this dish. So we're going to put some tarragon in here. And I have dill. This is dill weed. When dill weed blossoms, it has this great big brilliant yellow blossom, and that puts out dill seed. And these dill seeds are what goes into dill pickles commonly, amongst other things. If you have one dill flower, you and your entire neighborhood will end up with dill. It's the way it goes. But they're just beautiful and brilliant. One thing about herbs is when they flower, the production of the leafy green part greatly goes away. So it's very stemmy, and that's usually at the end of its life. So if you want to keep your herbs from flowering, or getting woody, you just cut the flowers off. It's sad, but that's what you have to do. So we're going to put some dill in, just small little quantities. Here again, feel free to use whatever herbs you like. I next have, this is not parsley, though it looks very much like parsley. This is chervil, C-H-E-R-V-I-L. This is a fancy French herb. It's very, very expensive to buy it commercially. It's kind of like a sweet licorice, whereas the tarragon is really hearty in licorice. This is kind of sweet. This is used a lot in French cooking. It's just very expensive, and it has a very short shelf life in the kitchen. So if you can find it, you can use it. I don't see it very often in the grocery store, almost ever. We are also going to add some basil, some fresh basil leaves to this. Basil grows easily. I grow a lot of basil because I can, usually successfully. This is just a common green basil. There's about 60 different varieties of basil that grow. Some of them are different flavors. So you see lemon basil, it's basil with like a little shot of lemon, like aftertaste. And there's cinnamon basil, and there's chocolate basil, and the list goes on and on. Some of it's purple. There's opal basil, which is like deep maroon. It's really, really, really pretty for garnish. I wouldn't cook with it because the color, you can't really see the color, but it's beautiful for garnish. So basil would be good in here. You could add parsley to this if you wanted to. I'm going to add some chives. So for this, you're going to do about an equal amount of herbs to butter. So whatever you choose to use, you're going to do equal amounts of herbs to butter. And I also have some chives, which are not beautiful, but will work. So something I like to make that's not, well, it has herbs in it, but I make a butter for my baked potatoes. So, because, I want to bake a potato, I want to go to all that effort to make all the yummy stuff for the top. So occasionally, I'll take the butter, get it soft again. So this butter's just been sitting at room temperature basically overnight to make it soft. So for my baked potato butter, I take the chives and chop them up. I take the cheese, shred it up. Take the bacon, make it crispy, drain it off, put it in there, add some salt and pepper, add the soft butter, mixy mix, and then I'm going to show you how I package this up, and I put it in the freezer, so then anytime I want a baked potato, all I have to do is slice a couple pieces off, put it on my potato, and it's got that loaded potato right there, instantly, which is good after you work, 12 hours and you just want to eat. You don't want to be playing around. So we're gonna add some chives to this. So about an equal amount. I have 1 stick of butter, which is 4 ounces. It's unsalted butter. I like to use unsalted butter because then I can control the amount of salt that goes in it. Different people believe different things, but it's fine. So we're going to add some chives to this. Chives put out these really beautiful blossoms, depending on which variety of chives. The common garden chives have this purple, like lavender, and they're super oniony and garlicky at the same time, and they're like little purple pom-poms. They're beautiful on plate presentations. Some of your other chives put out white. They're similar type of blossom, but they're white. They're also very, very, very tasty. So I like using those for salad. So you can take the soft butter into here. And add some salt, regular salt or not. Depending on what your final outcome is, you could add a little tiny smidgen of lemon juice. So if you don't use this butter right away, you do need to keep it probably in the freezer because the herbs will go bad. It's just a fact of life. So now I have ooey gooey yummy butter, right? And so this is what you guys are having today for lunch, for your snack. Make this in big batches, and the easy way to preserve it, take a piece of parchment paper, and you make like a big Tootsie Roll Pop. And that is how, you can use wax paper too. If you don't have parchment paper, wax paper works. Or like the Christmas crackers, if you've ever seen those before. This is a big piece of parchment for a small amount of butter, but you roll it up like this and you kind of shape it. You shape it like this, and then you put it into the freezer or the cooler. And all you have to do when you need a piece is you just slice off little coins and you toss it in whatever you want to do it. But if you keep this in the freezer, you'll have it available at all time. So when you have lots of herbs, I just used one combination, but you could use whatever combination you wanted. Like cilantro, if you eat a lot of cilantro, make cilantro butter, cilantro lime butter. You know, I do a butter that has cilantro, lime, and chipotle peppers. And then I just have it available, you know, whenever. I kind of have this thing for butter, I can't help it. I have that available. I take it out of my freezer, make a couple slices off of it, and then ready to go, wrap it up, put it back in the freezer for next time. Okay, so I have this recipe for you as well if you want it. It's written for corn, but you can use it for this. So what we have for you is I just have some little bowl pie pasta and butter. Lots and lots and lots of butter. And if you want more butter on your pasta, I'll put some more butter on your pasta. And some roasted tomatoes. I really like roasted tomatoes. I make those often, especially if my tomatoes aren't super fabulous. I just put them in the oven and I roast them down. So today's butter has, I think everything I have here. So I had dill, chervil, basil, chives, tarragon, and I think I ended up putting a little bit of parsley in this one as well. A little bit of salt. There is some Pecorino Romano cheese on top, and of course the roasted tomatoes for you. So we'll be passing out these samples for you shortly. Okay, moving on. So the next two items are kind of going to be a little bit of magic of television, just because of what they have to go through. The first one is basil oil, all right? And fresh basil, and this is good to use at the end of the season when after your plant has blossomed and become very woody, and not putting out so much, and your blossoms aren't, and your leaves aren't so beautiful. Into the blender it goes. Olive oil, but it doesn't have to be fancy olive oil. You could even use vegetable oil. You know, dump it in. This is really great for pizza. So if you want that little bit of basil taste, and you don't have the basil, you can make this, and it's going to get really loud for a second. So this is just a commercial blender. It works great in your little blenders at home. You're going to puree this up. You can add some parsley to it. Like if you want that brilliant bright green color, add just a little tiny bit of parsley because of the chlorophyll. I've done it with chive before for different presentations. You get that chivy flavor. So as it purees, when it's done, it's going to come out looking like something from the swamp. No, I'm not joking. Like it looks like nothing. It's like green sludge. And it looks very cloudy because of the air that's being incorporated into this. So at this point, whatever herbs you choose to use, I would use anything that's not woody. So like the thyme probably would not work. The rosemary probably would not work, but any soft herb would work for this. Don't put any salt in this or anything that will actually makes it cloudy. You're going to use a coffee filter. And it looks, I mean, it's going to look like swamp sludge. And this basically has to sit overnight. Okay? Like that. When you're done, it comes out crystal clear like this. And because I wanted to make sure that I knew it was basil oil, I just shoved some basil in here. Which you don't have to. I had a couple little extra pieces. It is super super fragrant. You're more than welcome to smell it or taste it if you want, if you would like to taste a little bit of that. Great for holiday gifts, you know. You don't have to use high quality, expensive oil. You can use a lesser quality oil perfectly fine. So now, all through the winter months when you don't have fresh basil available, you can still have that bright kick of herb flavor for you at all times. I keep mine in the fridge because it does have olive oil in it. It will solidify, and that's just the quality of the olive oil. But then you bring it back up to room temperature and it melts itself again. Just kind of, it's just the way it goes. So that's how you would do the basil. I've done it with chive as well, and chive is like Ghostbuster green slime color. It's beautiful, like on a white plate. It is gorgeous, and that adds that little bit of extra pretty pizzazz to it. At one of the schools that I've worked for years and years and years and years, we had a garden that they were allowed to grow anything that was legal. That was my rule. It had to be legal, you could grow it. And we grew just hundreds of pounds of herbs over the years, of different things. And vegetables and fruits, you know, whatever they wanted. It was a growing and learning activity for them. What works really good for pest control for tomatoes? Marigolds. So something about the marigold puts out some sort of scent or negative vibe to the bugs. So we would plant the marigolds, and one thing about marigolds is that they are also edible. So we'd use the marigolds as pest control around the plants, and then they would take them in and put them in on their salads and their buffet platter presentations, because they're also edible. Yeah, they're okay. I mean, they're okay. Yeah, edible flowers for me are something that you have to introduce slowly, and you don't just pick up the whole blossom and like munch on it. You work it in slowly, but it works great for keeping bugs away from tomatoes. I don't know what it is, but it works great. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to show you, well, I'm not going to show you, I'm just going to talk about it, is I have mint syrup here. So mint is a great herb. There's hundreds of varieties of mint. I have just a common garden peppermint, but there's spearmint, there's chocolate mint, there's lemon mint, there's holy mint. I mean, the list goes on and on. Orange mint, lemon mint, chocolate mint, I don't know. There's lots and lots and lots of mints. Mint grows without any assistance whatsoever. I can remember growing up at my grandfather's house, he would grow mint and he would mow the grass, and it just had taken over his entire lawn. Every time he mowed the grass, it smelled like mint. So if you grow it, of course, try to keep it in a containment. So this is simple syrup. Simple syrup is an equal part of sugar and water. You bring it to a boil and you shut it off. If you ever go out and have a cocktail and you need that cocktail sweetened, that's how they sweeten it. We use it for pastries, to thin our sweet sauces, to moisten our cakes. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things. So I just did the simple syrup, and as soon as it came to a boil, I shut it off, the sugar dissolved, I put the mint in there and let it sit. And let's not make a mess. So what I have here is some mint simple syrup. You can see a screen. You can keep it in the fridge as necessary. Even if you don't put the mint in it, simple syrup is something great. So if you have iced tea that's cold, have you ever tried to put raw sugar into iced tea and it never dissolves? So if you have the simple syrup, then that problem's solved. So then we have some fresh lime. So this is easily taken and made into an adult beverage later on in the afternoon with the addition of, I would like it with gin, or maybe some clear rum, or maybe even vodka. Anything that floats your boat. So we're going to do a little bit of lime. Then we're going to top it off, and we have some of this for you to taste too. Here we go. Just some club soda. So this is just like a refreshing little mocktail. And I'm going to take some fresh mint. A little refreshing for the afternoon. And like I said, you could easily, let's get this stirred up, add some of that adult beverage to it later on in the afternoon. Kind of like a mojito a little bit. but without the muddling, and you're easily able to adjust your content. You can make a basil simple syrup if you wanted to, depending if what your desired outcome is. If you really like basil, but mint is probably going to be the best herb for this one right here. And I'm going to mix some of this up so you guys can all have a little bit of a refreshing beverage for this afternoon. Can I answer any questions for anybody about this or anything else? I do have samples of the garlic herb salt for you to take with you if you wish. And I do have 2 of the recipes here. I have many recipes along with a lot of my research that I spend out on farms and different processing facilities. I've been to beef cattle ranches all over the state. A lot of my, I call them adventures. I have all those written up, plus a seasonal what's in season guide, one for each month. Lots of recipes, things that I teach my students or try to teach my students about different things about being a chef. So if you're more than welcome to take one of those as well. Do we have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
What kind of tomatoes?
They were little cherry or grape tomatoes, and to roast them, I just put them in a bowl with a little bit of salt. If I roast something, I don't put pepper on at the very beginning because the amount of time that it spends in the oven, it actually causes that spice to burn. So just a little bit of salt, a little bit of oil, regular vegetable oil, high temperature, 400 degrees, lay them flat on a sheet pan and in the oven until they kind of, depending on how mushy and brown you want them, is how long you go. And I make larger batches of them because I really like them, and I just put them in small containers and put them in the freezer so I have them available for things. Yes, ma'am. Yes, it's floridachef.net. And I do have a flyer up here that you're more than welcome to take with you. And it's on the bottom of the recipes as well today. Any other questions? We are getting some of the little drinks available for you. If you would like more pasta, yes, sir.
So you talked about sugar in the
Yes.
tea, and it never dissolves. That always happens to me. So then, can we just buy it back?
Well, this has mint in it. So it's really easy. Simple syrup is 1 part of sugar and 1 part of water. So it could be 1 cup, 1 tablespoon, 1 tablespoon. 1 container, 1 container. As long as it's equal amounts, you put it into a pot, bring it to a simmer, and it just dissolves. And that's simple syrup right there. You're welcome. We make large batches of simple syrup in restaurants and just keep it in the cooler for a long periods of time, because we use it for many different things in the pastry department, as well as for like iced tea and cocktails and things such as that.
Did you all enjoy the pasta and the presentation? Let's go do it here.
Oh, I need to make some more drinks. More drinky drinks coming your way.